And that's our top story. The much anticipated deployment of the army to those areas on the Cape Flats did not happen as expected. The order to send the army was announced by Police Minister Bheki Cele during his budget vote speech in Parliament yesterday. He said that after last weekend, where 13 people were killed in just 24 hours in Phillipi, he spoke with the Minister of Defence. To discuss, we're joined by the SABC's Vanessa Poonah in our Seapoint area. Vanessa, is this definitely going to happen?
Francis, good evening to you. Yes, indeed. So since early this morning, there has been a keen interest in what was expected to be the deployment of the South African National Defence Force. You've said just now, an announcement made by Minister of Police Bheki Cele last night. And we've been deployed to areas such as Phillipi East. We've been to Lavender Hill. We've been to Manenberg. And those three areas are among the top crime hotspots across the Cape Flats, areas where we can expect the SANDF members to be deployed once they arrive here. Now, a very short while ago, as well as early on this afternoon, we spoke to the SANDF spokesperson, Seapoint, to confirm whether or not the soldiers that the minister had spoken about had indeed arrived in Cape Town. He did say to us a very short while before we came on air just now that to his knowledge they have not yet arrived in Cape Town, saying that there are still quite a number of administrative issues to be resolved before the deployment of the soldiers. And I'll quote what he told us a short while ago. He says, and I quote, "We will deploy once we are satisfied that all the systems are in place for the deployment. I will not be able to give you the exact time, but deploying will be pretty soon. We need to make sure that all the deployment papers are in place and that our soldiers have received full orientation of the area, and we know we are going where they are going to," close quote. That was, of course, from the spokesperson of the SANDF, Seapoint, telling us that a short while ago. On the ground, I can tell you, Francis, that there have been some mixed reaction to the news since it broke last night. Some community members feeling that their call is finally being heard. Others not so sure that the deployment of the South African National Defence Force in communities would indeed be the stabilising factor which so many people are seeking in areas where their children, their grandmothers, their sons are being killed almost daily in rampant crime.
In some of the reports you've done, we see people literally crying out for help. Just tell us what has happened until now, Vanessa, because there have been reports of police being deployed from across the Cape on a rotational basis, but seemingly unable to control the violence.
Indeed, we have also seen since earlier this year and late last year the deployment of the anti-gang unit, which was touted to have or to be all-inclusive of various disciplines within the SAPS. They have been deployed across the country, but sadly, just a couple of weeks ago in Phillipi, in an area called Samora Mashal, those very members, 6 of them, came under heavy fire. They were injured while they were on a patrol and on an operation. Shots fired at probably one of the most elite, if one can call it that, disciplines within the South African Police Service. And then last weekend, I think, was the straw that broke the camel's back. 13 people gunned down. Not the first time on the Cape Flats that multiple murders would have taken place. It has been happening on and off, especially when there are surges in gang violence. For example, in 1 month or a couple of months, Manenberg would flare up. Manenberg would then quiet down once police go in. Then Lavender Hill would flare up. Then Phillipi East would flare up. And what we've been seeing since the start of this year is indeed an unacceptably high level of murders. I think the number quoted was as many as 900 alleged gang-related murders. We've also seen figures as close as 2,000 unnatural deaths, most of them by gunshots as well as other objects. So for the year to date to have that kind of murder or unnatural deaths figure for any province is indeed alarming. And then last weekend, these 13 people in Phillipi, I think, which would have been the last straw, so to speak, and then following that, the announcement by Police Minister Bheki Cele last night.
Vanessa, we don't have much time, but the DA has been asking this for a very long time. What are they saying very quickly?
Well, I can tell you that the city of Cape Town, which is DA-run, the Western Cape government in the form of the Premier, Alan Windey, have welcomed the deployment of the army. They say it is a call that they've made for many, many years. But at the end of the day, also speaking to various community members across these communities that I've just mentioned, people are saying that they are tired that their lives are being politicized. They are tired that death and crime and murder is being politicized. And that seems to be a general consensus. Old women, a lady I've spoken to this afternoon in Manenberg, she's been living there for 40 years, saying that she's really hoping that the deployment of the Defence Force will bring about stability, saying that children cannot go to school. But Francis, it's not a new story. We've heard this from communities crying out for many years, just wanting peace and wanting to be able to live, walk to the shop, go to school, fetch your children. That is what they have been calling for all this time.
All right, thank you very much, Vanessa Poonah, live for us from Cape Town, and we will be speaking to the South African National Defence Force a little bit later in the show.